I believe life is about being on a wellness adventure, and since 2017, I've been on a quest of redefining how to create an unmistakably high quality life. It's involved relearning my primal instincts, reclaiming the power of unshakable belief in myself, revamping what is in my kitchen from food to water, and rediscovering the practical wisdom in regular everyday moments. I'm hungry to expose how easy it is to live a vibrant and fulfilling life that is equally good for us and the planet. Here on the Isabel Wellman Show, we weave the practical and the mystical to evolve into the highest quality versions of ourselves in order to lead a long-lasting ripple effect. Together, let's lay it all out on this wellness adventure. All right. Everyone needs to learn more about the initiation into girlhood and boyhood, especially girlhood, because it's been such a hush, hush, keep it silent idea. I love that you have brought together this empowering, inspiring, total embodiment piece of work into the world. I want to know what inspired you to make this book.
I was inspired by my own daughter and probably my own experience too. My daughter, she started her period during COVID and we were at home. Lucky her, right? Most girls have like all these nightmare stories about starting at school and having to cover their pants and not knowing what was going on. Bella was at home. It was during COVID. It was in April. I wanted to have a party for her, but it was COVID. We couldn't have people over. We had moved to Galveston in 2018. So we had family all over the country, friends and family all over the country. My husband was in the military. I was in the military also. I had a volatile relationship with my own menstrual cycle as I was growing up and into my adult years. And I wanted her to really love her period because I really feel like self-love starts when we can accept every part of ourselves. And women talk about self-love all the time, but what I have found missing from the conversation is love of your menstrual cycle. There's so many negative connotations around it, like complaining and, for lack of a better word, bitching about it. I wanted her experience to be different. So I reached out to family and friends, asked them for letters of support or advice. And as those letters started to pour in, her and I would sit down and read them, and we would be in tears. She was 13 years old, and we would be crying over some of the things that our families and friends were telling her about how beautiful she was and how much she needed to embrace her own creativity and her own individuality. And she just was so perfect and to embrace that perfection. And at that point, I want every young girl, and as a matter of fact, I want every single woman to feel this way. So that was the inspiration. It was her, it was my own experience, and it's every girl out there, every woman who has a menstrual cycle.
My body gets the tingles, and they're often truth bumps when you feel the words of someone resonating at such a heart coherent level that vibrates your cells in a different way. And that's what I feel, because I agree wholeheartedly that if I had had this when I was 12, 11, the summer going into sixth grade, and I had someone to talk to or to hear, this is what it really is. Here's the truth about all of this that you might not get from a Midwest small town. I mean, it was a whole bunch of, we don't talk about sex, we don't talk about periods, we don't talk about the birds and the bees. I was exempt from the conversation because I asked my mom. I was so uncomfortable because I was such a tomboy that I was like, hey, I don't want to go to this. Can I not? And she's like, okay. I had the expectation, the assumption, oh, she'll tell me about it. And that conversation never happened. I was a very hormonal person. I was feeling all the things for boys, and I was hiding my period. She did not even know when I started it. I was just like, oh, here it is. I'm just going to take the panty liners out of the cupboard. It'll be fine. They won't notice. I'm all good. I got this all by myself. And it was very, I have to do this alone mentality, because there wasn't, not intentionally, that there wasn't that safety But in my own body, I was like, this is me. I don't know what this is, but it's all I got.
First of all, I just want to give young Isabel a big hug and tell her it's okay. It's okay to be who she is and to embrace this time of her period and to love herself. She doesn't have to hide. I think it's pretty apparent that you've worked through some of that stuff because you're not hiding. You're doing podcasts and you're out there and you're on Instagram. So that's so beautiful and so wonderful. Thank you for sharing your light. Yeah, that's what I wanted. I wanted girls to be able to talk about it. I didn't want them to have to hide or be ashamed because 50% of the population has or has had a period, and the other 50% come from a period. So we need to be, it's okay to talk about it. It's a natural part of life, right? We hide these parts in society. We act like it's hush hush to talk about it, but it's not. It's such a beautiful, magical part of us. Our periods and our flow sync with the moon. We have a shedding, and we're able to really dip into like this incredible power, yet we've been told to hide it and not talk about it, and so we don't. And that's the goal, right? Is that we're talking about it openly, we're okay with it, girls are feeling okay with it, and they're not feeling like, ugh, I hate this, I hate that I do this every month. They're feeling, okay, this is just who I am and it's what happens, and I need to regulate with my flow. So okay, I'm feeling kind of hormonal, what do I need to do? I need to rest, I need to eat something better, I need to do some self-care, some cleansing, some showering, some whatever we need to do to make ourselves feel better during that time. Does that resonate?
Deeply. In your book, I love that you put in the back of the book a whole month so that you can begin tracking physically. I'm a strong believer in pen and paper. I know digital is great and it's sustainable, but it's different. I truly think that when we can physically write something out, we can look back and go, whoa, that's my handwriting. Those are my words. And that is inside of me. That's intense. When I received your book, I had just started my period. And I was like, awesome, I'm going to use the journal and see what's going on in my body. And I've been keeping track for a little while, but it's been on an app. So it's been different. And sometimes I don't want to log into the app. This is sitting right on my desk, ready to flip to the page. There I go. And these questions and reflections that you have, some of these questions are things that make me feel better, questions I have about my body, new feminine products I've tried, my hardest emotions to deal with, any unusual pain. A lot of us think that PMS is normal when it's not. It's not normal. I want to talk to you more about that in a second, but I want to read off a few of these. Mantra quote or advice to remember, food that makes me feel really good, foods that make me feel not so good. I wrote down tots from this one pizza place because we ended up going out for pizza, and I was like, oh yeah, we can get the tots. 30 minutes after eating those tater tots was misery. Never again. Not doing that to myself. I'm a rather healthy person, but it's one of those nights and you learn. And this helped me. I was like, yeah, I am going to remember this because now I can look back, see what's written down, and confirm for the next month I will not be going to that pizza place. And yeah, what am I most grateful for? I had written down the flexibility in my day, making money that supports my flow and lifestyle. That's been a big part of my personal period journey, is understanding that my job gets to be something that supports my cycle. That is something really challenging for many women to contemplate, to accept, and to experiment with. I love to hear your journey on, first, your thoughts on PMS and the symptoms and what's not normal and normal. And then we'll get into your own journey with how you've managed your cycle and move forward. And even your daughter, if you have that insight.
Lots of great questions. The first one is that question was put in there because I had very extremely painful periods. My growth has come after this book was published, actually, and through talking with women like you. It's made me figure out that even things that I put in that I realize needed to be in there just came about, right? It's kind of been really crazy how that synced up. I did have a colleague tell me, like, she said, you put this any unusual pain. And it's so important because had I been tracking that pain, we would have known I had endometriosis so much sooner. I think that with females, we are told all the time that we're just supposed to soldier on and just be who we are and that it's not a big deal. Like our pain's kind of in our head. And that was kind of my throat for a very, very long time. Is I had extremely painful periods. It was just like, you have to go to work. My flow was so heavy. I was a teacher and I was bleeding. I had to be in the bathroom every 30 to 45 minutes. I mean, changing a super plus tampon and pad. It was so heavy. It felt like a crime scene every time I woke up in the morning. And then through not learning how to take care of my body and listen to my intuition, I made some hard choices. I got an ablation and ended up getting a hysterectomy. And I never learned how to take care of myself during that time. Now I'm only 44, but I'm missing a key part of myself. I'm missing my womb space. Like it's there, but it's not there anymore. I don't get to tap into that anymore. And I don't get to understand that. I knew that I wanted Bella to be different. We need to pinpoint things. Like if she's having severe pain, we need to know a lot sooner so that if there is anything, we need to take care of it. So she's not in my space. As she gets older, I struggle getting pregnant. I had two ectopic pregnancies. One, I almost died. I was on the table and I hemorrhaged and lost over half my blood. All these crazy things happened, all because I never got in tune with my body. And that comes down to eating and listening to my gut. I never really tuned into that. And I'm still learning right now, but I want my daughter to learn a lot sooner than I did. So that's where a lot of those questions came from. What does she need to know at a much younger age? I never got to work with my cycle, like align it with what I'm doing. Only now. I resigned my position last year at a school district because I needed to pause. I had never learned to work with my flow. I never knew to get into my creativity during my ovulation time. I never knew that I needed to be resting during that PMS time and that I was pushing myself so hard. So this year I've taken a huge break and leaned back and just kind of allowed myself to be, which has been really weird after you push and push and push. But going to my daughter, she is learning to work with her flow. Like she just texted me today and she's like, my cramps are killing me. I'm like, okay, what do we need to do? And she's like, nothing. I'm okay. I can stay at school today. And she makes those choices. I let her because we don't give our kids enough autonomy to decide if they need to rest or not. We're just go to school 24/7, do what you're supposed to do, be there, push, 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 get into all these activities. Like that's not the way we're supposed to live all the time. We need to allow them to know when they need to rest and then they won't burn out. I feel like that's how she is. She runs track. She's very healthy. She lifts weights. And she knows right now she can't be pushing my. So it's been a cool journey, one that I wish I would have learned so much younger, and one that I'm hoping we can start teaching our future generations about and not having them be our age, my age. I know you're a lot younger than me. Be my age and going like, man, I don't even know what's going on. They need to be tuning into their bodies. They need to be saying, what doesn't make me feel good? So much illness is coming from things we eat.
Absolutely. And I do want to go and say, for people my age as well, I'm in my late 20s, and so many of my friends are resistant to the idea that they can learn about their menstrual cycle. It blows my mind because I've been immersed in this since 2020 when I had my own experience of chronic BV vaginosis, and every month I was getting put on a antibiotic. And it started this summer. I had moved back home and I was feeling different things for someone new, and this all came about. And I'd still had a IUD in from a operation I had that they were like, hey, you are getting a birth control, pick which one you're getting. No option. This is just happening. I was afraid. I had no ideas. I just don't want it to mess with my hormones. So I went with that copper IUD, and I never had a bad experience with it, but I felt numb. And when I had gotten it in, I was still dating the old partner, and I was numb to everything until I was finally in a new job. And then I could see, whoa, I have a friend, first girlfriend. I was like, you really support me. You really enjoy my presence and love me, and I love you back. And wow, this is very new and I'm scared, but I'm gonna go to that women's circle thing you invited me to and see what that's about. And that woman who led that, she's a dear friend. She's been on the podcast a few times and changed my life to connect with women, to connect with my body, to have that trust. I'd always had that friction with other women because of that competition. We gotta be jealous, we gotta be catty. Even when I was not trying to compete, I'm just doing my thing, but I don't feel like I can do my thing because I'm gonna make you upset. And if I make you upset, then you're just gonna hit la. And it's such a toxic cycle that so many girls my age and beyond grew up thinking we have to compete. We have to be better than the other one. We have to be that one bird that's going to get all the other male birds doing their little dance for that. Like, no, 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 and no. Going back to my point, being on antibiotics every month for BV vaginosis, not having anyone tell me you could heal this by drinking a tea, having a pH balancing soap, buying cotton underwear that you wash every time, a natural supplementary for a few days. And I went through that for a year until I had gotten to a naturopath who had me on an elimination diet, told me those 4 things, and I was better in a week. I've never had BV vaginosis since. I've only gotten more in tune with my cycle. I got my IUD out that winter. Didn't hurt. Felt like a relief. I was like, oh, this is who I am. This is amazing. And we're all different. I respect everyone's birth control choices. But for me, it was time to be natural and back with where I'm going because of my own alignment with how I believe we are meant to be, just natural and whole. And we don't grow up learning that can be the way. And I love that you are brave and you are so strong to bring this forward. I'm really proud of the work that you've done, especially resigning from a job and saying, I need this time. I need to be the one to model this for my daughter. That why behind your mission, I get those goosebumps. I'm like, oh my God. I love you so much for being on this path. We need more moms, more sisters, more grandmothers on this path, advocating and saying, hey, it's not a one path fits all. There are so many beautiful bodies out there from shape and color and size and height and bone density. And the comparison has to stop. And let's share instead. Let's hold hands and we can do little massage trains. We'll braid the hair. We'll come together and honor this.
You're talking about the birth control. There's so much coming out about the birth control now, so many side effects. I have one person I know that she had been on birth control. She's getting blood clots in her legs. I think that the birth control had an effect on my body and my ability to reproduce. My daughter, we had taken her to her first doctor's appointment, which was really hard to get into because they don't want to see kids under like 17 or 18. And I thought, well, that's kind of weird. We should be like, these girls are starting their periods young. We should be talking about, is there any pain? Is there anything happening? Like, there should be some serious conversations around this. The first thing the doctor said was like, oh, we're just going to get you on birth control. You won't even have a period. And that was her solution. She's like, here, pick one. She gave us a thing. And I was in shock. I was like, wait a minute, because I'm not ready to just be like, here, get on birth control at 16, like I was, and we'll just deal with the repercussions later in your life. So we got in the car, and my daughter turned to me immediately, and she says, Mom, I really don't want to get on birth control. And I'm like, now, hold on, like, are you sure this is your choice? It's not just me, because I don't want you on birth control, but I'm not going to, it's your body. You need to make some decisions for your autonomy, and you need to decide. She's like, why would I not want my periods? You taught me my period's natural. So why would I try and get rid of it? And I was like, okay, perfect. That's a great answer. That's a great answer to know that you have a natural part of your body and the answer isn't just to get rid of it. Yeah. It was a proud moment for me. I'm not going to lie.
Giant step forward for womanhood. I'm so proud of her.
Me too. I was proud of her too. And 16 is a hard age and the pressure she has and all the things that are happening. When we talk about sex, we try and be very sex positive in our house. And when I do talk about things that she needs to be careful about, yeah, pregnancy would be hard, right? But the hardest thing is the STDs, the that she gets, and those can ruin her body. Those are things that, like, she has to be careful who she lets in and who's allowed into that space, because they bring their own energy, one, and then they bring their own bacteria, for lack of a better word, right? They bring their own bacteria, and that it messes with your bacteria too, and it meshes, and you got to figure out if that's going to work or not. The birth control isn't necessarily the answer, especially not the answer for anything like STDs or STIs. Everybody has to make their own choices, and I get it. This is the way that they try and cut down on teen pregnancies. They've had a lot of conversation about abstinence. We've never tried to be sex positive. We've never talked about, here's what sex is, but let's talk about the things that can come with it and the responsibility and the other things, So for her to make that choice, I really think that just creating this book and talking about it a lot in our house is what's made it. And I take care of her. If she's on her period, we get out the heating pad and we make hot teas, and I go get her a toasty beverage from Starbucks or wherever she wants. I like to shop at our local coffee shops, but she's like Starbucks because everybody gets it. And I make some of her favorite foods, and sometimes we buy a little bit of junk food, but we try not to buy too much. So I take care of her and tell her to rest. I don't tell her, well, my cramps don't hurt, so why should yours? Or, you know what I mean? I had a home ec teacher who was doing our classes, and she was thin, and she was like, when you have a baby, 9 months to put on the weight, it should take you 9 months to take off, no longer. There's no reason you should hold on to that weight, and you should be small again. And periods don't hurt. That's other girls who are just complaining and they're trying to get attention. That was my education about it in high school. Don't want her dealing with that. I just think that's not fair.
That right there is the misinformation. That is true misinformation, like uninformed. I go through so many of the frustration that comes, but I also hold so much compassion for every woman who has not had that chance. And then I think about, well, who did not teach her correctly? And can I have compassion for the woman on the other side of that? And can we hold responsible the patriarchal side of this, who has gone too far? Because that's a whole nother conversation.
We could talk for hours on that. I think that also that woman was never taught that everybody's different. I've talked to a couple of people once this book came out, and they're like, I don't need that. My period was like 1 day a month. I had no pain. It was light. It was like perfect. And I'm like, okay. It's really opened my eyes. So everyone is different. Some people are in bloodbaths, and some people are like, what period? And that's great. We're all different, and we need to just accept that everybody's different. Just because you're not feeling pain or it's not heavy or you don't need to go to the bathroom every 20 minutes doesn't mean that this person doesn't. That's what's another thing that's so hard about schools is they want to tell the kids girls are just using it as an excuse to get out of class. My answer to that is, why is your class so boring that they need to get out of class, right? If you're teaching a different way, and I know I'll probably get some flack for that, and I apologize. I'm a former educator. I taught for 10 years, so I understand. I taught middle school and high school. I get it, but kids weren't getting out of my class just to go to the bathroom. They were getting out of my class when they needed to go to the bathroom. That's one thing that we don't talk about, is that we're trying to make kids decide when they need to go and they're not listening to their bodies, which isn't correct, which ends up having UTIs and all the things that come with when you hold in your urine. And then we're telling girls, oh, it's not really your period. You don't really need to change it. What? Are you kidding me? And if it was me, I was having to leave class, I would have to get another teacher to come sit in my class for 5 minutes so I could run to the bathroom and change my tampon every 30 minutes when I was in my heavy flow days. And I'm going to tell a kid, oh, you're just faking it. I don't believe you. No, we have to have some kind of compassion, and our teaching standards should be higher so that kids aren't trying to get out of our class.
Yes, lay it all out. This is the place to show up fully, because the truth needs to be heard. It might be a hard pill to swallow for some people, but that's where I invite anyone who's taken aback by anything they hear in a podcast, in a different conversation with their colleagues, go inside and ask, why does that trigger me? Why does that bother me? Instead of this being an attack on you or XYZ, see it as an invitation of exploring and having more compassion. That has been a practice of mine for a while. It helps because you go, what am I seeing in them that I'm not seeing in myself that I might be jealous
Right.
of not having, or I'm missing, or I'm yearning for, or I don't know how to cultivate? That mirror looks back at you, and we're all just mirrors looking back at one another.
Yes. Yes. And that's the thing, right? Is when something bugs you that somebody said, it's something inside of you. Like, and you need to niggle it out or whatever. I'm a believer in that. I'm a believer that anytime we see somebody and we say, oh, I hate that person, you hate that person because there's something in them that reminds you of yourself that you don't like. What do you need to fix or figure out inside yourself so that you can fully love yourself and therefore love everyone else? You know?
Yep, it's a whole cycle.
It
And
is. It's a cycle.
it's a cycle. Everything is a cycle.
It is.
Nature is our greatest teacher, in my opinion. She teaches us everything. There's the four
Yeah.
seasons. There's the 4 seasons of the menstrual cycle. There's the moon phase. The sun will come up and it goes down, a 24-hour phase. There are so many different cycles. It would be hard to deny that your menstrual cycle is as important as the cycles outside. Just as in the summer, we're way more energized and we want to stay out longer and we sleep a little less because we're getting the correct amounts of vitamin D and we're sleeping with enough serotonin through the night because we had so much fun. So now we feel satisfied. And then in the winter, we're sleeping way more. We might not get up for another half an hour than what we're used to. And to be okay with that and to
Yeah.
witness that and to honor, oh, I want more warm root foods right now versus fruit and watermelon and water dense foods. Taking those little steps is like the compound effect. You start with one little thing. All right, every time I wake up, I'm going to see where I'm at with my cycle, whether that's with an app or you're taking your basal dial temperature. Maybe you use the book and you tune in and go, all right, I don't know where I am, but what could I use to learn about it? Like fertility awareness method. You could read that book. There's so many different things that we can explore to just start becoming aware. I'd love to come back to the question of how did you learn to manage your cycle and what helped you move into this area of life?
I wish I would have done this so much younger, but we didn't know. I'm so grateful for social media because I think that that's opened the doors to so much knowledge, and it's allowed women to connect in ways that we weren't able to connect before. We were so segregated, and then it was a patriarchal women's groups that like church women's groups where women would come together. But you're right, we weren't talking about all the things. I think that a big thing is being able to connect with women online and see a different way is what helped me a lot and had me come into this new time of my life. And I think that times are changing. When I talk to my daughter, she tells me, she's like, Mom, we're not embarrassed anymore. I just grab my pad and go to the bathroom. It's not a big deal anymore like it used to be. And that is so refreshing. I don't know if it's like that everywhere. I have no idea. But I do know that what I needed to do and what I felt like my calling was to empower women in every way I could. And that meant talking about things that we weren't always talking about. So with this manual, it's periods, but I have submissions out for my next manuals. And one is for moms because moms are told, oh, you'll just have a baby and know what to do and love them. No, my manuals aren't how to actually do something. It's more about self-love and support, creating a community when you feel isolated. These books are to create this community of loving people who want to hold space for you and allow you to sit in that space and journal in it and create in it and do those things. I have new marriages because I think a lot of women lose themselves in marriage. And then they wake up one day and they're like, what happened? We were so in love and now I'm the nag and I'm doing everything. I'm very lucky to have a partner that has grown with me. Our home is very gender fluid. He cooks and he does laundry and he does dishes and he sweeps. It's not just on me. I'm not the one who has to do all those things. I'm not the manager of the house and I don't want to be. I think I was for a long time, but I really stepped out of that role and allowed him to be who he is too. I'm doing one on divorce because women are so alone when they get a divorce, when they leave a relationship, and it's heartbreaking. A lot of times women don't even choose the divorce. It's their partners who throw it at them and they have to sit there and pick up the pieces. I have one on menopause, because menopause isn't being talked about as much as it should be. And I have submissions out for embracing our sexuality. Women have been shamed for so long about sex. I just want to have those open conversations and allow women to be who they are and to embrace their sexual side, because it's so important. Such an important part of our creativity and our magic and all the things that happen with us. My calling is empowering women, and it's starting here. This is the first conversation. Our menstrual cycle is the first conversation to have before all these things happen, before you have babies, before you embrace your sexuality, before you get married and or divorced, but leaving relationships. We talk so much in our family about when my daughter has a boyfriend break up with her, we cycle through the emotions. Okay, you're sad. It's all right. But relationships end. This is what I say. A relationship ends in one of two ways. Either you get married or you leave. There's no in between. And sometimes you break up after you get married. There's only two outcomes to a relationship. So it's okay when you break up. That's all right. That person wasn't meant for you. This is the universe's way of getting them out of your life. Now you're going to move into your next relationship, but you're going to know and you're going to have your lessons. What lessons did we learn? We cycle through all this stuff, and I'm not sure that those conversations are being had everywhere. I want to create a space and empower women to know it's not about them when a relationship ends. And people are just different, and it's okay. It's okay to let them be different. And it hurts, and I get it. It's painful. I've been hurt. I've hurt when relationships end. It is painful, and it's okay. I want to create a space where women feel like they're held and supported. When I get submissions from other women for these books and they put their space in this, every time I tag them on social media, every time it's talked about, every time I hear somebody says, oh, you were in this book and I found you, so here I am, they're automatically now holding space for everyone who's reading that book. Oh yeah, I did contribute to that book. Now imagine how powerful that is. Right now it's 24 women from this book that on a daily basis, any one of them are holding space for the 200 plus women who already have this book. Wow. Isn't that incredible? And then when you hold it, you're holding space for other women too. As a collective, we're starting to hold space for other women. It's this magical kind of thing that's bringing people together in a way that is still private. You still get to do your own thing, but you still get to feel held and supported.
Yes, that is necessary. I cannot explain how monumental women holding space for me and vice versa has been in my growth as a human being in general. 2 years ago, I had a girlfriend put together a retreat, and it was the first women's retreat I'd ever been on, first time I'd ever internationally flown to meet a group of women I didn't know. I had met this woman online. I felt a very strong connection with her and what her message was, what she believed in, her integrity, her intention. I've gone back to her second retreat. And the first retreat was like, wow, I really let myself, little closed spiky ball opened up at the end. And that was the beginning. And then it took a year of continuing to practice and open up and share and bring my partner into that situation. This last time going to this retreat, Manayi in Greece, I mean, wow, I saw what I think we used to do as women back in tribes and villages, where the women would gather upon rising and they would talk about the dreams they had. They would share their intellect. They would speak and honor the person bleeding at that time. They would hold a sacred ceremony to gather your own blood, bring it back to the earth, and honor that cycle of it going back into the earth, fertilizing, giving back the nutrients, maybe wearing it as a mask if you're having blemishes, letting the rich iron in that blood do its job by going back on your skin, washing it off when you're done, and not looking at it as taboo, but accepting the tears, accepting the writings, accepting the symbolism, and asking, what are you feeling? And how did that experience, what did that do for you? Bring it back to this self autonomy, the self direction, the self guided practice of coming back home, because we have all the answers. We need to have other people hear it and then ask questions back that we are not going to catch because we're in it. I've said this analogy before, but if you're in a car accident and that car is flipping through the sky, you cannot fathom what's going on. You are just here and you're like, whoa, this is intense. Everyone else around you, though, can see clearly what is happening. And I think that analogy can maybe disturbing for some people, and I'm sorry if you've been in that situation. I can envision that and see that would be how that is. I cannot explain how monumental it is to have a journal and a group of women that you can come back to, whether it's online, whether it's a group you meet with in person, whether it's at a retreat you do once a year, and you have that moment so that you can remember what we used to do. And I think so many of us are coming back to that, especially with the little bit of the financial issue going on in the world. People are coming back to knitting, to baking things at home, to learning how to
Mhm.
make bread, learning about plants and having a garden and vegetation, and it's extremely nourishing to remember
Yeah.
that we're all coming back to the roots of how we used to do things that really didn't cost too much because we're being pushed in that direction. It's also a unified agreement that's coming about like, oh, yeah, we have each other and we can come back to each other.
Yeah, it's super powerful. That collective feminine power is incredible. And I agree with you. It was so funny because I was just thinking this morning, I always want to bake, and I feel like I don't have any time right now. We've got family coming in, and I'm worried about things that are going on. And I had this feeling, I just want to be cooking something. And I think that's the thing. We just go back to this inherent need to create something from nothing. When you cook, you create a concoction from different ingredients where you had nothing before. Now you have bread or cookies or whatever it is. I am absolutely right there with you.
That's another big thing, learning to go after that call, listening to that and go,
Yeah.
okay, I am going to bake the bread or the cookies or do something that's going to take 30 minutes and then get back to whatever because it's going to make you feel so good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to come back to the books, everyone. This is that First Moon Manual, Letters to Our Daughters, Empowerment, Body Positivity, Embracing You, compiled by our beautiful Jesica Medellin. And she has this dedication letter in the front. I grew up praying to God and gone to a Catholic church. I never
Mhm.
really understood it. I never really associated with it, but I enjoyed the message some of the time. And recently, I wondered, where is Mary in the Father, Son, Holy Spirit? Where is she in that opening of the prayer? And every night I'd pray before bed and go through prayers. I've now started going, daughter, mother, and the wise crone. That's my new
Yeah.
entry. And then I start with I'm grateful and I thank Mother Earth. And from there, I let whatever come. And it relaxes my body. And I sleep so deeply now that I do that initiation. And it feels way more appropriate in my body. So I just wanted to say that real quick before I move on to this dedication letter of this First Moon Manual, because it does start with our daughters. It starts with we are all a daughter in some capacity. We have a mother, we'd have a guardian in some capacity. We're a daughter of Mother Earth if you don't have a mother. And having this letter to either write to yourself when you were at that age, or if you are of that age and you're coming into womanhood and initiating yourself, or you're 50 plus and you want to dedicate this to someone that you want to give it to, I think it's so beautiful. I'd love to share mine, and I'd love to either hear your daughters or one that you've written for yourself as well. This dedication letter begins with this: my hope for sisterhood, real, raw, honest, genuine, started out rocky. I often felt alone in my girlhood, not feeling comfortable to talk with my mother or blood sister about periods, sex, hormones, or boys. My bleed came during the summer prior to the 6th grade, and I felt quite numb to the experience. I hid my bleed, sneaking the use of panty liners and pads until one day I had to ask my mom to buy some. Her shocked expression didn't faze me then, yet I now see how disassociated I was with my female body, especially as a major tomboy. I grew up with a few female relationships that made me feel appreciated, but I don't think any of us really knew what that meant or how to handle honest and loving communication when we didn't feel appreciated. In a small town, it can be make or break when it comes to clear communication, something I'm not sure many of us had modeled to us. nor do I think we had a safe place to talk about what was rapidly changing inside of us without judgment. Almost 2 decades later, from starting my own journey into womanhood, I feel like I've been initiated properly. What do I mean by that? I've learned how to properly stand strong, wild, and liberated. I have gone through the dark realizations of the mother and sister wound, coming out on the other side of self love, respect, and responsibility. I have taken the time to experiment with flowing with my cycle and operating day to day based on that phase I'm in. I now trust in genuine, real, compassionate, authentic, supportive sisterhood with friends, bosses, and my family. I've completely embraced my feminine nature and listened to my body as she speaks on food, products, rest, action, and trust. It is a pleasure to have this space to explore and nourish the inner child within me in order to continue stepping into the shoes of the woman I wish to grow into.
Hmm, that's so beautiful. How did you feel after you wrote your letter?
I felt I felt really relieved, and I was actually
Mm,
shocked at some of the stuff I had written. I was like, "Wow, that is what that feels like in my body." For a very long time, I have felt this push and pull with my hometown
mm,
because growing up, I had a couple of girlfriends that were like really good friends, but once middle school and high school came, it was the catty, you can't trust,
mm,
the best friend's gonna talk behind your back, and this, that, and the other thing. And it never felt safe. It never felt like you could really have someone show up for you. And I have a few experiences where people did that I'm so grateful for that gave me that courage to keep trying. But I see it was not just me. All of these actions or things that I perceived came from the lack of our own parents, guardians, teachers being able to hold us, show us, and model for us a healthy way to undergo the initiation into womanhood. I truly think that until I had gone to that women's retreat, I was not initiated into womanhood. I was hustling, I was grinding, I ignored the period. I didn't have my period for a long time when I was younger because of being an athlete. Thought that was cool. And then I grew up, I finally started getting it again. I was like, all right, this is healthy. I feel
yeah,
like I apologize to myself for not taking care of myself better or having anyone tell me like, oh, that's a bad thing. You really
right.
want to have that as you grow up. This is some of the most important years, those first years you have your period, to set everything into this rhythm. And doing so much, being too active, clear sign not getting your period that you need to slow down. Something I'm now incorporating into my day to day, as hard as it is,
Yeah,
slowing down process. So I feel so much compassion for everyone, every woman I grew up with, all of the pain we were individually going through that none of us knew about, whether we were afraid to talk about it or we just didn't know how to connect, or if there was that competition piece coming up, whatever it was. I have a lot of love and compassion for all of those girls I grew up with. That was a big
yeah,
thing that came out that like has been brewing that really needed to come forward.
yeah. I love that. I love that.
Thank you for asking.
Yes. Yeah, I found that so many people who wrote the letters would come back to me and say, "Oh my gosh, thank you for asking me for this because it helped me process through things that I didn't even know I needed to process through." And I think the art of letter writing is a lost art right now. We are in emails and it has to be quick and fast, and we're social media and everything's very fast right now. And letter writing has kind of gone to the wayside. I remember as a kid loving getting letters, and that's why I chose letters because it felt so personal. Every letter dedicated to a young girl, dear daughter, dear young girl, dear moonchild, because I wanted any girl who picked it up to be able to relate and feel like it was written to her. I would love to read a letter. I was thumbing through, and this one came up, and I feel like it needs to be shared on here. It's not mine. This is from Carly, and she does Wild Meraki. I know that there's not page numbers in my older ones, but I have added page numbers. And it says, "Your woman, gentle reminders, encouragement for the sacred journey of bleeding. This time in transition is sacred. Your cycles are sacred. It's special, beautiful, lovely, confusing, and scary all at the same time. This sacred journey of bleeding makes you a woman, and what a blessed thing that is. I want you to know and understand what a beautiful experience this will be for you. There will be many emotions of feeling unsure, scared, and maybe even disliking the transition your body's going through. And all of those feelings are okay. But my wish for you is to understand how special we are and how much magic there is in our cycles of bleeding. Through your cycle, you are connected to the universe and natural world, especially the moon. Bleeding is a time of rejuvenation, creativity, rest, and honoring, a time in life that inspires so much possibility, connection to your divine feminine energy, a time to take your gaze inwards, focus on yourself, and eventually, if desired, create new life. Every woman's body is different, and your journey is uniquely your own, gifted just to you for you to experience. I encourage you to track your cycle and write down as many details as possible. Track what phase the moon is in, take notes on how you feel, what symptoms you're having, emotions that arise, and journal this beautiful experience. Through this thoughtful process, you'll find a deepened sense of connection to your most divine self and the moon. It gives you superpowers for navigating life. Remember to always honor how you feel. Don't be afraid to communicate that to people in your life. If you need alone time, take it. If you need to cry, do it. Bleeding is beautiful, not shameful. As you grow and change, your body will too. Honor, acknowledge the changes throughout the journey. The womb space from which you bleed is a sacred portal to connect you to some of the most special gifts you've been given. Your intuition, your heart, confidence, drive, passion, love, and a deepened connection to your spiritual potential. Making this connection will unfold many things for you throughout the life. It's always there with you. Honor it, nourish it, and use your superpowers. You are capable of anything you want in this life. Blessings to you on this beautiful new endeavor. You are a woman, you are worthy, you are loved just the way you are. You're loved just the way you are. And then every letter has a reflection after it. So this reflection is what is marvelous and magical about my cycle? In what ways is my femininity, my superpower?
This book is extraordinary. I love all of these letters. I love them so much. The one I had put a little sticky note on is a few pages after the one you just read, and to the daughter I never had. And that one really
Erin, yeah.
jumps as like, ooh, all right. we're gonna reflect back on that one a few times.
As I was listening to hers is what came to my mind too. I was thinking about Erin's letter because she talks a lot about how she didn't want to embrace her femininity. And when she finally did, she leaned into her creative power and she became more powerful. She wanted to reject that part of herself. She wanted to do things the masculine way. And when she finally just decided to let go, she was able to be more successful. She's also the editor of this book. She's the one who helped me put it together. She calls herself a book doula. She really helped me birth this book, and she did an amazing job. She put it in order. I had all the stuff and it was out there, and I'm like, I don't know where to put this. And she got it in the beautiful order it's in. And as she was reading through it, she said, Jessica, there's something missing. And I'm like, what's missing? And she's like, your letter. And I was like, oh. So I had to sit down and write my letter, which was beautiful, and it helped me focus on what I wanted for my own daughter that my mom wasn't able to give to me. Like, whether she just didn't know. I think all of our moms just did the best they could with what they had and the information they had. And every generation we get to do better for the next generations. I really wanted to lean into what I wanted to give her that I felt like I didn't have. So my letter has like 7 promises to her.
That's beautiful. I'm so honored. I'm honored to have connected with you and to have received this book, to have you here to talk about it, to share the heart stories. And one of my last questions is, where do you hope to see our future move forward into when it comes to the woman?
I would like to see women be more connected. And you talked a lot today about the cattiness that happened, especially during junior high and high school. And we have to move past that. We have been pitted against each other because when we're together, we're so powerful. When women come together, their collective prayer, their collective thoughts, their collective work is so powerful. And I think that that's one of the things that has happened in history with the patriarchy is they've separated us. they've created the separations. I would love to see womanhood move more togetherness and be more connected.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Aho to that.
Yeah, we're not in competition. There's enough for everybody.
Yeah. There's enough pie to go around, everybody.
There's more than enough.
And if it runs out, we can just make more.
Exactly, right? Yes, absolutely.
Limitless. This is
Limitless.
the beginning of that. Teaching young girls they're limitless. My last question is how to define like what does it mean to be initiated into womanhood? What does that mean to you?
Oh, initiated into womanhood. Just like Erin says in her letter, like everybody told her, well, you're a woman. She's like, I don't know what that means. I think that initiation into womanhood is more of embracing, loving, and accepting who we are in all of us. It's like I said, once we really think about self love, it's loving even our menstrual cycles. If that is what we can do for young women, we can initiate them into womanhood by allowing them to love themselves fully.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes loving their menstrual cycles. That is what a true initiation into womanhood would be.
Thank you.
Thank you. This has been a great conversation. Thank you so much.
I'm honored. I'm so honored. I believe completely in the universe bringing us who we need and what we need when we need it, and how all the little pieces will align ever so slightly. And then that little 10 seconds of courage, that 10 seconds of I'm doing it. I'm sending the email. I'm going to write to the publisher. I'm going to go teach that thing. I'm going to hold that retreat. I'm going to create. I'm going to ask. That can be one of the hardest parts of being a woman, I think, is asking. And, asking is after that, all right, I did it. I did it. The universe, I trust you. And what is aligned, as you're saying, with relationships, with our cycles, with what is going on in our lives is going to perfectly unfold. We just have to trust and then consciously think about that choice and go, all right, give this 2 seconds. Do I want this or that? Let me go this way. All right, what unfolds? And it's just that continuous presence with the self, with where we want to go, with what we're feeling. I'm so happy that you made this tangible. I'm so happy. This is revolutionary. This is what people, when they say they want to see change, this is what it looks like. The small details. Because I heard this quote the other day. Have you ever got bitten by an elephant? What about a mosquito? It's the small little details that are going to get you the most. And although this is a book, it can go out to millions of people. And I pray that it does. Like you said, over 50% of this population is woman, and the other 50% came from a woman.
Exactly. Yeah, I had a mom tell me today, she said our book showed up and my daughter was so excited because when people order from me, I'm able to sign them and get them sent out. And she said she was so excited because her name was in the book and thought it was the best thing ever. And her friend was like, you have to text my mom and tell her because I need one of these books too because I'm starting puberty.
Yes.
And they're 12, 11 and 12. So just think about it. That mom made the choice to buy my book. Bless her. Now it's affecting somebody else. At 11 and 12. Can you imagine if at 11 and 12 you would have had that?
Insane. I think about that and I rejoice and I want to cry and I want to just run outside naked all at the same time.
Right? Yes.
That is it. Oh my gosh. I'm grateful. I'm proud of all the young women who are asking. They're seriously the change that is coming. And these are the things that are inspiring them to take that action and give them that strength and that bravery. I'm going to quickly show this to the camera. Hopefully, if you're on the YouTube, y'all can see this. But there's the calendar. We have different ways to feed the flow right there. I am spot that you can write in. These ones are the pages I have noted myself. There's a little page here, like get to it. The I am, like for transformation, and some beautiful artwork. This artwork is all over this book, and
Yeah,
This
Akemi, the artist, gave me the A through Z affirmations. That's Lady Raven design. She did that one that you just passed. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
gorgeous.
I wanted any girl who picked it up to be able to think it was meant for her.
Absolutely. Beautifully done.
Thank
I
you.
cannot recommend this enough. Where can people get their hands on your beautiful manual?
Always Amazon. I have a TikTok shop. You can go to Instagram. I have my link tree up. It's all First Moon Manual. Anywhere you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Amazon. First Moon Manual.
Beautiful. I will have those links in the show notes. So
Thank you.
just scroll on down. Y'all can find it. Highly recommend, especially for all of the moms out there who have those daughters. For anyone who has a vagina, I just highly recommend this book.
Thank
You
you.
will be grateful no matter where you're at in your life phase. And thank you so much, Jessica. I
Thank you
appreciate
for
it.
having me. I really enjoyed our conversation today. Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
You're welcome. We are going to sign out for today, guys. Thank you so much. I hope that you have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you on the next podcast. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Please consider leaving a 5-star review, following along on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out the video version on YouTube, and come hang out with me on Threads. We are making an impact together every single day that we stand up and we share, we learn, and we thrive.